Have you ever been in a situation in which you were the only one standing up for what was right? Well, I have. As an attorney, I often walk through some dark places while trying not to give into darkness. You see, every lawyer is tempted not only to eat forbidden fruit, but to become the snake. And these are the trials of the Christian lawyer.
Can I get a witness? No, I mean that. Literally, can I get a witness? One of the most frustrating things as an attorney is trying to get people to come forward and tell the truth. They come out and testify. A colleague here, Sara Wilson Valdez, had an interesting case. Please tell them about it, Sara.
For client confidentiality purposes, let's use the name Johnson. So Mr. and Mrs. Johnson are on the brink of a divorce, and she uses an accident that her daughter had at recess to try and say that her husband had abused her daughter.
So if you look at my baby's leg, doctor, there's a huge scratch and bruises all over it, and I just know it happened at her father's house. He just pushed her right down, and I can't believe it.
Okay, Miss Johnson, please have a seat. I'm going to take a closer look and see what's going on, okay? How are you, Cassie?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Tell me what happened.
I fell at recess.
Fell
That's it.
at recess.
Now you see, he has
Okay,
her
yeah.
lying for him. It wasn't like that. He pushed her down.
Okay, Miss Johnson.
You have to understand.
Let
He
me take a
pushed her
closer look
down.
at this. I do not get involved in these things.
You are involved in these things. Mr. Johnson is a good father. Mrs. Johnson is calling him a child abuser. She's going to introduce medical records that you prepared.
But the records show that there's no finding of abuse.
That's all that it says. It doesn't say that Mrs. Johnson lied in this office and tried to force her daughter to lie. Cassidy told you that the bruises on her leg came from a fall at recess, but she repeatedly tried to get her to blame Mr. Johnson. It's convenient that 2 days after they left here, she went to Child Protective Services and got a protective order. CPS in this state follows the lead of any parent, and the judges follow the lead of CPS. We need you to tell the truth in this hearing.
I am a pediatrician. I work with children for a reason. I have more tolerance for children than I have patience for adults who act like children. Look, I hate this stuff. I am not trying to be called into court every time a parent files for divorce. I lose half my practice. The mother complains that the father doesn't dress the child warm enough in the winter. The father complains that the mother doesn't feed the child enough vegetables. And they both blame each other for the child's cold. I'm sorry, I do not want to be involved.
You know that this is an innocent man.
I'm a physician. I can't do any good if I'm sitting in court being grilled by attorneys. Every time a parent wants to file for divorce, I would not have a practice, nor would I have patience. One parent would think that I'm siding with the other and ban the child from even being examined here. Even worse, I could probably expect complaints from the medical board from the parent that loses the case. That happened to a doctor right here in this office. The ex got wind that my colleague was going to testify and went after his license. I need my license.
Dr. Harrison wasn't budging, and I'm sitting there and I'm praying, trying to figure out a way to convince this man to help me. And then I saw that the receptionist had this replica of the Ark of the Covenant, and I took that as being the manna from heaven. Whenever I realized that Dr. Harrison was a Christian, that's when I knew that God had made a way.
Evil triumphs when good people do nothing. I thought you were Christian. The 9th commandment tells us not to bear false witness.
I am not bearing false witness. I'm not bearing any witness at all. I don't know if this man is a good father or not. I don't even know if he abused the child. All that I know is that the mother tried to get Cassidy to lie in my office. That's it.
Leviticus 5:1 says, "If anyone sins because they do not speak up when they hear a public charge to testify regarding something they have seen or learned about, they will be held responsible." If you do not speak up, you are saying that Mr. Johnson is guilty of child abuse. You are also saying that Mrs. Johnson did nothing wrong, even though she tried to force a young girl to lie in your office. You are bearing false witness, and you will be guilty of the same lie that she will tell in court. God isn't happy with lies of commission or omission. If you were in Mr. Johnson's shoes, you would want someone to tell the truth.
The commandment says, thou shalt not bear false witness. God hates injustice. And what happens when we bear false witness, whether it's an outright lie or a lie of omission, there's an injustice. And then people feel the need to take the laws and matters into their own hands. They question if God is real. So God says, thou shalt not bear false witness. And we do that every day. When you're in court and the person's sitting there telling the truth and you go, you're bearing false witness. But it's not just the lies. It's also the omission, not stepping forward and telling the truth when the truth needs to be told. I'd like to direct you to Ezekiel 33. God sends a warning. Ezekiel 33, verse 6. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes the life of one of them, that man will be taken away because of his sin. But I will hold the watchman accountable for his blood. We are required to step up and to speak up. When there's injustice, we are required to speak up when justice is coming, to warn our brothers, to warn our sisters where they are and what is coming if they don't live right. It's not about being nosy. It's not about being a busybody. It's being a witness. And throughout the Bible, God had witnesses. These great men and women of the Bible, we call them prophets, we call them leaders, spiritual leaders, but they were witnesses. Jesus gave the Great Commission, and he basically asked the same question: can I get a witness? In the Great Commission, he says, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. He asked us to be witnesses. Can I get a witness? And then Revelation in the end, he says, they overcame him. They overcame the evil one by their testimony. Can I get a witness? That is what we're required to do. These are the trials of the Christian lawyer.